So sprites are just a graphical element in 2D. So whenever we created a sprite and we added a texture, we just grabbed that from the resource folder, and these are just individual PNG files. But you may not have that, and there, in certain ways, it's actually more performance efficient to have what's called a sprite sheet. So say all we had was a sprite sheet, which luckily Kenny Asset supplies us both individual and sprite sheet. So let's go ahead and say, let's delete the ship for now. We don't need that. And which means we also don't need this. Okay, so say we have this UFO, but all we have is a sprite sheet. So we drag in that texture as the sprite sheet, and now we have this entire sprite sheet, but we don't want this whole sprite sheet. We only want like one part of it. So what you can do is Godot's really good for this, is you can select a region and you can enable a region. Right now, as you can see, it's completely small because we don't have a region selected. So let's take that off for now. And you click texture region to actually select what you want. So let's make that bigger, zoom in a little bit, and let's say we want this guy here. So let's go ahead and just drag this region here, and you can adjust them with these little guys. And you can also, there's also a pixel snap or a grid snap option that will automatically snap these to where you want it. But that looks good enough for now. So now we have that selected. So we can scroll down, and now if we enable region, we have the sprite showing up that we want out of this entire sprite sheet. Now another way this can be useful is actually for animation. So let's go ahead and just create a new sprite. And let's scroll down to this other asset pack where we have a little guy. So let's grab the sprite sheet and let's just drag this into the texture. And as you can see, we have all these sprites, but what if we just want this little guy's running animation? It's only 2 frames, so let's just call this player. And we can again do the region, so we can enable that and go to texture region, make this big so we can see, and then select our little guy here. Cool. So now as you see, I selected all the frames I want to be animated. So these are just 2 frames that we can just go back and forth to almost simulate a little walking animation. So let's scroll that back down, find our guy, let's get away from that. And now if we want to animate it, we can click this animation tab under the sprite in the inspector, and we can set the vertical frame. So here we only have 1 vertical frame. Vertical is up and down in case you forget. And right now we only have 1, and then we have 2 horizontal frames. So let's set that to 2, and now under the frame we can toggle between these 2 frames. So in code you can access this, and again we'll talk about code later, but essentially this is how you can animate things, or it's at least one way to animate them with a sprite sheet.